Hello again from the Granite State. My name is Gary, and this is the Restoring Main Street podcast. Thank you, as always, for joining me. It's Monday, the 10th. Thought I'd get in an extra podcast this week. I'm going to attempt to post something for you on Wednesday as well, but I'm going to try to make this a regular routine, and I pray that you appreciate it. So, podcast tonight. What are we going to talk about? Well, as I alluded to, if anybody follows me on the Restoring Main Street page in Facebook, I sat down and wrote just a long, post to the people that follow my Facebook page. I don't have what you would call maybe a massive following, but that's part of why I'm doing this and asking people to spread the word to try and grow that. But it can be a little disheartening and disturbing, I guess, is the calmer, more polite word for this particular podcast tonight. But if you look at the relationship between my followers and any given post that I add to Facebook at that page, they don't quite match up. And I don't imagine that probably surprises people because I'm opinionated, because I don't go along with groupthink, my posts get throttled. So my long form post that a lot of you read was an effort to see how many people out there actually would respond or saw any given post that I add to the page. I understand that the algorithms, if I post a link to a podcast, it most likely is going to pick that up, censor what it is that they feel they see, or what the algorithms pick up within the subject matter, and act accordingly. It is Facebook. So what I wanted to do tonight was just take a couple of minutes to further explain my post and share with you a little bit of information, an update, because it's only been a day since I posted. I made that long post yesterday, and hopefully get some further feedback from you. And for those of you that have already participated in my post, I want to thank you right now ahead of time. But with all of that in mind, I say we get into this and start the program. And there we go. So, like I said, I produced a long-form post yesterday and added it to my Restoring Main Street Facebook page in an effort to try to gain some support from everybody that my page says follows me, has selected it, and decided that they want to see whatever it is that I'm sharing on that page. The discrepancy comes in when you take a look at any given post that I add there compared to the people that follow the page and how many individuals I actually reach. Matter of fact, the discrepancy is quite huge. So it caused me to feel beyond frustrated. I mean, I understand what Facebook is. I understand if I'm not playing their game that they're going to throttle me to a certain degree. But my hopes in sharing this is to further illustrate that to all of you out there and maybe get you to consider changing some of your habits as it relates to that. So, for those of you that are just kind of tuning in, that haven't been following my page, which is my Facebook page, my Restoring Facebook page is 2 years old now. Let me try to give a really quick history behind that page. I started out with Restoring Main Street as a way to to help shed light on my little city, on the downtown area of Rochester, New Hampshire. You look at the storefronts, and like a lot of small cities / towns, there's more than a fair share of empty storefronts. So I started to ask the same question that I kind of see a lot of Facebook pages start up, specific pages, asking the question, why not Rochester? I see other small towns and areas definitely working hard to try and bolster their downtown and things growing. So I always found it hard to understand why my little city couldn't do the same thing. So the idea of the page initially was to go do personal interviews, sit down and do personal interviews with store owners and get their personal behind-the-scenes stories, so you can add a little bit of the human element behind that storefront. And in that way, try to engage people by writing those stories and posting that on my Restoring Main Street page. And as all of you know, round about the, I say 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more than 2 years ago for the Restoring Main Street page itself, but how shall I put this, huge honking monkey wrench of COVID put a damper on what I was trying to do with that page. A lot of other people had it, a whole lot worse than I did, but it did affect what it was I was trying to do. See, I'm not one that likes to sit down or grab a phone and have a phone conversation, especially with things like this. I would rather sit down across from somebody so that I could see their face and, gauge their enthusiasm as they told me their story, how they built up or how they started their little business. So that was my initial intent there. And as COVID kicked in and the ability to actually sit down across from somebody and have these conversations and write these stories lessened, I had to figure a way around that. Well, podcasting was my solution to that problem. If you asked me 2.5 years ago if I was going to get into podcasting, I probably would have laughed at you and said, yeah, no, that's not me. I don't feel all that comfortable in front of a camera. As you can see, I'm getting a little better at this, but there was a whole lot of apprehension there, and I don't know as I would have done this if it wasn't for COVID. So this is my answer to being able to share a message with all of you out there. And although Restoring Main Street started out as a way to promote my downtown and the owners of businesses there, its ideals or its principles started to grow from there and spread a little bit. I saw what I remembered of my little downtown as being something that I think people across America, those values, that image of a bustling, thriving, vibrant, small city or small downtown was something that most communities would like to get back to. So in an effort to do that, I expanded my my look or my approach to Restoring Main Street. And as you can see, over this last year, if you follow the page, I have been pretty much focusing on podcasts as opposed to a lot of written pieces. And that was by choice. So why bring it up? Why share this? Well, like I said, let me share a quick shot with you. I wanted to share a picture. Now, here's a typical post of one of my last couple of podcasts. If any of you have gone onto the page and clicked on and followed this link, you can see down at the bottom right here that I've reached 27 people and had 5 engagements. And I would say probably three of those engagements were from me with the groups that when I do this post, Facebook will allow me to tag and share it with. And there are a lot more groups that I'm associated with, ones with larger audiences that if Facebook would add those to my listing or my choices at that point, I would click on those just for further exposure. But because I have my own voice, because I won't go along with groupthink, because I choose to speak my mind, this is the kind of response that I get, or at least what Facebook is telling me I'm getting from my posts. So what I posted yesterday, what I shared with you, like I said, was an effort to kind of ask a favor. And anybody that has read the post understands the favor. I was asking that, hey, if you see this post, could you do me a favor? Could you let me know that you've seen it so I could see how many people I can reach with this? Because it seems as though the written posts don't have the same throttling, or the algorithms on Facebook don't treat them as poorly as when I'm sharing a link to a video post. And I'm not sure if that's me or if that's Facebook, but it kind of bothers me. Let me show you another page, just as further illustration of why I'm upset. This is the feedback from that post that I added yesterday. I have over 700 page follows and just under 700 page likes. As you can see from this snapshot that I took of my Restoring Main Street page and some of the feedback just from yesterday, if you're looking to the left, as you can see, this is a 28-day shot of how much exposure I've gotten, and I'm up 67%, 2,538 people have been reached over that period of time. And post engagements over that same period of time has been 409, and I've gotten 5 likes. And if you look to the right, you can see how this actual post, this commentary on Facebook's throttling, what the reaction was after just a day. I have 384 people that were actually reached and 185 engagements. So I guess my question is, if I can get that from a post of that nature, handwritten, as opposed to a link of a video, why? Facebook, if you know anything about posting on Facebook, they are more than happy to take advertising dollars from you, and they will send you prompts to coax you to spend money with them. $10 here, $20 there, and you'll be able to reach X amount of people. My problem with that is, if the algorithms are still going to censor me, how much of that dollar is really worth me spending? And what am I saying to Facebook by looking at that minuscule response and giving them money to, up it, 2 or 3 more people? Somehow I can't justify that in my own mind. Now I just want to show you, so that I can share that I wasn't making up those statistics from earlier, that, as you can see, I had a few new likes, which brought me up close to almost 700 likes for this page, and I've clicked up, as far as follows, 2 or 3 more, bringing me to 773 actual people following the Restoring Main Street page on Facebook. So why bring this up except to, you know, does it sound like I'm complaining? It might to some people, that all I'm really doing is complaining about the fact that I'm not getting all kinds of new followers, all kinds of just enhanced outreach, because I feel what I'm talking about is important. Well, if you run it just by the sheer numbers, if I have 773 people at least following me, doesn't it stand to reason that if Facebook wasn't interfering in some way, at the very least, I should be able to reach 773 people? Even if I didn't pay them for advertising, to try and boost those numbers, to try to get my post in front of more people. Shouldn't I at least, if you go onto my page and you hit like, if you hit follow, shouldn't I be able to reach you with that content? You would think that I would. So why, the bigger question here, as I get to this, is why is anyone still on Facebook? Convenience? You feel comfortable there because you've been there for such a long time. But if they're not doing what these social media platforms were designed to do, if they're not sharing voices, all voices, without their algorithms throttling you, or reducing the amount of exposure that you get just from the people that like your page, that have asked to see your content, why would you keep supporting those people? I thought the idea of implementing the 230 law for social media platforms made them exempt from being targeted as publishers. They were just a platform. And I thought all of that was supposed to be a free thinking, a free sharing, the new digital town square, as you would say. But it's not. So, at the very least, I really want to thank all of you that have responded so far. I'm going to leave that post up and monitor its progress over the next few days, and I'll give you an update again. But in the meantime, my question to you, or the bigger reason that I shared this, is I would like to appeal to your better nature, to your critical thinking, to your sense of judgment, and the sense and belief of what this country was founded under and the principles that it was founded under, one of the biggest being free speech. So that's what's happening to me. And if you're sharing your opinions, I'm assuming, excuse me, a little dry out here. I'm willing to bet that a few of you have been in Facebook jail for speaking your mind. Yet you're still here. I would like to encourage all of you to think about setting up accounts at other social media platforms. Because in this same time period, over the last 2 or 3, maybe 4 years at the max, other platforms have come into existence that do not censor free speech. Granted, Facebook is free, but you know what? Like I stated in my post from yesterday, if you're involved in a platform and it's free, chances are that you and your data is the currency that pays for the use of that page. Are you comfortable with that? I'm hoping and praying that you're not, that you're pretty much tired of it like I am. And what I'd like to see, or what I'd like to ask of you is, like I said, to consider to migrate over to some of these other platforms. And what other platforms am I talking about? I know that several of you probably have accounts. You're worried about having to pay for some of these other platforms. Excuse me. The good news is that most of these platforms do offer a free portion or a free service. And some of the other niceties that are on some of these other platforms, you do have to pay a monthly subscription fee for. And you know what? Starting out, you certainly don't have to do that. But I would encourage you to consider going on them and using the free portion of some of these platforms. And who am I talking about? Well, free speech platforms that I'm involved in, that I post to with content and some in my podcast links. Gab and Gab TV. Gab TV, you'll find my podcasts posted there if you search under Restoring Main Street. Rumble and BitChute. Now, all three of those video portions, the Gab TV, Rumble, and BitChute, are all video posting, video platforms, and they are an alternative to YouTube. And if you think Facebook censors content, they're in close competition with YouTube. And along with some of those other video platforms, like I said, Gab has a regular platform to it that is a non-video portion that is similar to Facebook, but you can set up free accounts at MeWe. You can set up an account at Parler and Gitter and CloutHub. All of those, MeWe is more akin to what Facebook looks like, and your Parler, Gitter, and CloutHub are more like today's answer to Twitter, and of which the Getter platform is probably the newest platform or answer to Twitter, and a lot of people have migrated over there, and including Joe Rogan and a few others. And again, you know, if you would add the listening portion of this podcast, if you're not so much into watching the video, I bring up the other places where you can listen to me, you know, Spotify, Anchor FM, Breaker, Google Podcast, and there's 2 or 3 others that are options. And if you would go on there and would consider following, liking, sharing, and hitting the notifications button as it is associated with my page, and leaving some comments and perhaps a 5-star review if you feel it's appropriate, if you like the content. Now, my goal, obviously, is to gain more followers, but that is incumbent upon me and the content that I share. But like I said, what really bothers me is when those individuals, those people that click on my page and decide to follow it, don't receive my content because I don't have the right opinions. That's a violation of free speech, and it should bother every single one of you. So what I'm trying to encourage you to do is change some of your habits. I know it may make you feel uncomfortable at first, but you're also sending a big message to Facebook and some of those other platforms. if you choose to leave them. If you choose to open up free accounts in some of these other places, and perhaps after you've gotten used to those, go back to Facebook and Twitter, leave them a little note and let them know what you've done. If they see a huge downtick in the activities on their sites, and believe me, they're checking to see how much or what the traffic looks like on some of these other platforms, you have a powerful voice to say, we're not going to take this anymore. We have a right to be heard. Everybody has a right to be heard. You don't have to agree with me. I tell you all the time, you can come on and listen to this podcast, listen to the information, and I encourage you to go check on the things that I talk about. And like I said, you don't have to agree with me. All I want is the opportunity for discussion, for free and open discussion. And if I can have that, if all of us can have that, then I'm okay. Then that's good. Then we're preserving the things, like I said, that this country was founded under: freedom of expression and being able to share that and have those discussions about important topics and not have your content throttled or removed. It's just beyond important. And I felt it was about time that I shared this with you. Like I said, it's kind of frustrating. Like I said, I understand that the only way that I increase my numbers is getting better at what it is that I do here. But I don't need the added challenge of Facebook deciding which one of you that follows my page can actually see it. So, where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us with, like I said, just asking you to continue to participate on my page. I pray that more of the 773 people that follow my page, more of them will actually be able to see my content. If you go on my page and could share that with friends, I would appreciate that. That would at least, like I said, let me know that that I'm reaching more people. And it's just the opportunity. That's all I'm really asking for, is the opportunity. And I pray that what Restoring Main Street was started for, the ability to share information, to talk about small business, to remind you of some of the ideals and principles that this country was founded on, and get you to maybe imagine and remember what your small town Main Street looked like at one time, and those values and those feelings that you had when you would walk those streets. Those are the things that I want to share. Those are the things I want to continue to share. You know, in thinking about this too, because it's the start of a new year, and you know, a lot of these podcasts, the ones that choose to go in the direction that I am or similar to it, a lot of times we'll come up with a theme for the year. And I'm trying very hard to be original and, you know, not borrow from somebody else. And I think this time I've been able to do that. It captures the essence of what some of these other platforms suggest or talk about, but I think this theme for Restoring Main Street this year is beyond appropriate. I think part of the reason that we are all in the situation that we're in locally, nationally, with our government is because we've learned to settle. We've learned to accept the best of the worst choices when it comes to those people that actually lead us or are sent to Washington or occupy the school boards or our mayors, people of power, people that we trust. So in answer to that, I think the Restoring Main Street theme for this year is stop settling. It's time that you demand better. And the only way we're ever going to get better is if we do that. If we stop settling for the least worst choice in what we see around us. Like I said, in our representation and within our communities. We need to strive and demand that things are better, that things return to something we recognize as being principled, honest, and something of the people and not of the spirit of the age. So that's it for this week, or at least today. Let's stop settling. Please continue to support my page and comment there. And like I said, if you would share, hit the notification button, write a 5-star review, anything that you feel is appropriate. But all of those things help me and help further the efforts of this page and gets the message out there. So I really appreciate that. All right. I guess I've hammered this home far long enough, and time to share some of the other important points behind Restoring Main Street, one of which is supporting local small business. And that's where I bring in and talk about my good friends at metalheadsrock.com. Metalheadsrock.com is your first and only stop here in the great city of Rochester, but they also have, obviously, a web presence, metalheadsrock.com, where you can find anything in the way of head-banging metal t-shirts, rock bands, jewelry, bandanas, mugs, wall hangings like the logo of my company that you see in the background there. I noticed something that they produced and posted on Facebook the other day on their Facebook page of, if you're into Marvel, a huge silhouette of Spider-Man. It was amazing. If you have kids that are into the movies, the Marvel movies, and any of those things, you can find all of that if you go on to my friends metalheadrocks.com and just check out all they have to offer. And if you don't see something, hit the contact us and reach out to them. Chances are if you're looking for something specific, they might be able to help you out. And let them know that Gary from Restoring Main Street sent you. So in wrapping this up, just like to remind you, those websites and those platforms and other places where I post that allow free speech, I'd really appreciate if you would consider going there. I post this video podcast to YouTube, Rumble, Gab TV, and BitChute. And I post a link to my YouTube videos on the Restoring Main Street page on Facebook. You can also find Restoring Main Street presence on MeWe, the regular format of Gab and Getter. I also have an Instagram account and a Twitter account with the Restoring Main Street podcast. You can also listen to me. Like I said, if you don't necessarily want to look at this ugly mug, you can listen to me instead on Anchor FM, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, and the big one out there, Spotify. And also, if you would consider going out and perhaps purchasing a copy of my poetry book. For those of you that that like to read and like poetry, the North Country Chronicles, poetry and prose from the Granite State. Like I said, I cover a lot of different subject material in there, and all of it over a 4-year period that I put that together was heartfelt and honest. And if you'd like to support me, I'd appreciate if you'd consider purchasing a copy. You can find that at Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble. I also remember seeing actually a post where you can find it on Target or Target for all of you normal folks out there. And I'd like to mention too, I have some good friends that are big supporters of this page. So if you live in the local Rochester area and you haven't been on Coffee News Rochester to find out what's going on in the community, I suggest you go there. My friend Gene Valley has a fantastic page there. He posts everything and anything that's related to Rochester, and it's just a wealth of information. And as you can see, you recognize that ugly mug down at the bottom there. He allows me to share this podcast on his page on Facebook as well. And for that, Gene, I am extremely thankful. So, in closing, I pray that you just consider all it is that I shared with you. Free speech means a lot to all of us. It's the only way that we get to communicate, and if we can't have those honest discussions about important topics, and especially the difficult ones, this country is not going to survive. So I would encourage you to disrupt your norm, open up some new platforms, new accounts, and start following some of the people on those platforms that are allowed to share freely and not have to worry about being censored. And as I always do in closing, I'd like to share with you another very important concept, and that is that of God, freedom, and family. Because if we lose the first two, our families, our community, our country is surely doomed. So once again, thank you. Thank you for taking the time and tuning in, and hope to get something out for you this Wednesday. Some more material for you to chew on. So until then, God bless.